Good afternoon. I'm Roy Martinez. I serve as the chair of the Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome everyone to the 2020 Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce State of the District featuring our superintendent, Dr. Marty Crawford. Some of you may ask, why does the Chamber host an event for our community to hear about our school district? Well, the Chamber and its members have a vested interest in the quality of education for their families and the businesses in our area. We believe the knowledge and skills being learned by our students is crucial to enhancing the quality of life for them and our community. Enhancing the quality of life is part of the mission at the Chamber. So this is why we are honored to host the State of the District. We are blessed to have wonderful students, teachers, staff, and an administration led by Dr. Crawford. So for today's event, we will hear from Dr. Crawford and then have a Q&A session for all to participate. During the live Q&A session, please submit questions through the chat feature. So without further ado, please welcome to the podium Dr. Marty Crawford.
Roy, be sure to put your mask back on. You know what's going on. And everybody that's here today, make sure that y'all put your mask on as well. Oh, I forgot. We're actually virtual. Right off the bat, let me say how appreciative we are for each and every one of you choosing to attend this year's State of the District presentation. Most superintendent of schools aren't able to stand in front of a community and present for a seventh time a celebration of your school system's accomplishments. As I've stated since year one, we love East Texas, and as the capital of the East Texas Republic, we remain in love with Tyler, Texas. Elena continues to do her thing with Pampered Chef while also doing the blocking and tackling at home so I can quarterback Tyler's school system. AJ has grown from a cute little pre-kindergartner to a thriving fifth grade student and athlete at Jack Elementary School. She loves Jack. We celebrated and graduated Jackson last year along with the other seniors from Robert E. Lee, John Tyler, Early College High School, and Rise Early Grad School. Thanks to our teacher's work with Tyler ISD's dual credit alongside TJC, he's soon well into his sophomore classification this semester at TJC in his first year out of high school and is looking forward to Baylor, Sikkim, or Tech, Reckham next year. And then there's Ashton, a practicing RN, our oldest, who is married to Cole. She'll be wrapping up her dual master's in nursing and MBA from UT Tyler about 3 months after she has her first kid. That's right, Elena and I will be grandparents for the first time, and I'm sure y'all have already had a giggle with what the little guy will call his granddad, Crawdaddy, an old baseball nickname teammates from long ago attached to me. While our family enjoys Tyler's culture and the prospects it has provided us, I certainly could not enjoy the professional side of the superintendency without a supportive school board team. Just a season removed from being named a Top 5 Texas Honor Board. You know, they don't just hand those out to anyone. That accomplished many achievements listed in prior years' State of the District. They continue to govern under the professional expectations the entire community elected them to perform. We said goodbye with tremendous love and thanks to longtime trustee Reverend Orinthia Mason, love you, Rev, who retired from board service in May and tragically lost longtime educator and new school board member Freeman Sterling in February. After that, little did we know this board would tackle once in 100 years challenges in service of the students of Tyler and its surrounding communities. Those trustees are Wade Washman, District 1, Artis Newsom, District 2, Yvonne Atkins, District 3, Dr. Patricia Nation, District 4, Aaron Martinez, District 5, Reverend Fritz Hager, District 6, and Andy Bergfeld, District 7. These public servants have given countless hours to ensure your school system looks forward when it is so easy to get entangled in the here and now. A few of the challenges this board has governed the district's administration to successfully manage include: the district has been able to effectively manage the completion of the Bond 2017 program for both of our comprehensive high schools. As a reminder, nearly 1 million square feet of work is scheduled to wrap up this summer on schedule and under budget, wrapping up 3+ years of work after the voters of our community approved the renovations and additions to those schools that will impact generations of Tylerites and Smith Countyans. We're currently on the back portion of this project, focusing on renovations, including taking the school back to the original design of the Media Center as the core at Tyler High, while finishing competition gym and theater renovations at Legacy, along with athletic fields at both campuses. These projects transform the areas of our city where they are located, have already provided the attraction of quality educators, will inspire our students toward academic achievement, and paired with the Career Technology Center y'all provided in 2013, ultimately graduate decades worth of students Tyler ready. Looking back on the past 17 years of facility transformation, Tyler should be proud of the facility portfolio its citizens have benevolently and equitably provided, where our outcomes have recently began to match the quality of learning spaces our students and educators utilize. Many of you are familiar with the tremendous work these teachers, principals, parents, and students exercised to overcome the accountability deficit we were seeing in pockets of our community. With 11 low-performing schools in 2014, reduced to 9, 3, 2, 1, then none in the following years, and one barely again in 2019, we are serious and proven that zip codes will not determine the quality of education our children receive. The district set at an 85 rating last year, a mid-range B in Texas' rigorous hundreds of thousands of data points accountability system, and was primed to bust through the A ceiling, with both comprehensive high schools leading the way with high ratings on their ways to A's, more than likely, until we received a nice little surprise right around spring break. We were, however, able to continue our successful student outcomes in advanced academics, where we graduated over 75 students with high school diplomas and Associates of Arts degrees from Tyler Junior College, while continuing to outpace and outscoring our Texas public, charter, and private school peers on 17 of 26 AP exams. You'd have to be living under a rock and not be familiar with the predicament COVID presented our school system this past spring. We were ordered by the governor to remain closed and to provide instruction to our students remotely. We patchworked an instructional program of online, video, and paper learning opportunities, even feeding kids throughout, just to get through the spring. Thanks to the creativity of our teachers and with support from district transportation, maintenance, food service, constituent services, and special education departments. It was grueling, and as an educator, one of the most frustrating periods I personally have experienced, as we were unable to have our students and teachers with us so that we could continue to build off the momentum we had created the previous 5 years. We were and remain concerned about our students' social, emotional, and academic well-being. Of course, we did have joy at the end, as we conducted graduation commencement of our 4 high schools: Early College High School, Rise Early Grad, John Tyler High School, and in classical 2020 fashion, just as the principal started to speak, hour-long lightning delay for Lee's graduation. We obviously could not have accomplished this without the patience and support from our Board of Trustees. And we certainly could not have wrapped up this episode of the 140-year history of your school system without the calm, stoic leadership of the emergency operations leadership of our city and county. Unlike other urban and suburban municipality administrators that many of you have and continue to read about, Smith County and Tyler was able to land the plane softly because of leaders and their staffs like Smith County's Judge Nathaniel Moran, the City of Tyler's Mayor Martin Hines, Chief David Coble, City Executive Ed Broussard, and Police Chief Jimmy Toller, along with NetHealth's George Roberts and UT Health East Texas Dr. Jeffrey Levine, and their teams of experts. Your Joint Information Center intelligently protected the well-being of our community while allowing Smith County school boards to govern and Smith County superintendents to lead their school systems without one instance of interference. As we were closing the 1920 school year, we were already in the difficult work of planning for the reboot of your school system for this year. As early as the beginning of April, as we began to read the tea leaves and listen to the forecast of health experts while sifting through tremendous amounts of local, state, national, and global health data, we were gearing up for what we anticipated to be a year like no other, the 2020-2021 school year. With guidance from the Texas Education Agency, the Department of State Health and Human Services, countless interactions with other school systems across Texas, and many conversations with the local medical professional community here in Tyler, Tyler ISD assembles its Return to Learn plan. I had been through a couple of fairly large crises previously in my career, with Katrina evacuees and a chemical disaster, and one thing I quickly learned was that while the CEO must make command decisions, that the CEO must inspect what he expects, and that the CEO must trust but verify, ultimately the CEO can't design every facet and had better charge the subject matter experts that surround him to craft protocols specific to the mission. Our mission was to architect and execute an adaptive school system, and what a mission our team has embarked. We're still in the fight, and we appreciate your grace and support of your school system as we move through the remainder of this school year. This year's state of the district is a little different, as we were unable to break bread together as we normally do. I always enjoy this time with y'all and appreciate President Henry Bell and the Tyler Area Chamber of Commerce willingness to partner with us in this manner. We certainly wanted to remain in contact with y'all and not have a gap year of not having this opportunity to report on the accomplishments and challenges of your school system. Sure, Skip Ogle isn't just able to eat and run or butcher someone's last name, right, LaToya? I'll miss this year seeing friends like former chamber board chairs Claude Henry and Charles Hill, and we skipped this year's Partner of the Year and Distinguished Alum Award, but we'll have plenty of opportunity in the future years to champion the likes of previous winners, such as Senator Kevin Eltife, the Mentoring Alliance, Lonnie Uzell, TJC, Councilman and Emmett Scott graduate Ed Moore, along with many others. Instead, for this year's dessert, we have an opportunity for a sit-down Q&A hosted by the Chamber's board chair for this year, Mr. Roy Martinez. I'm looking forward to Roy's leadership this year and proud his family chooses Tyler ISD to educate their own children. Roy is a rising leader in our community and does so with professional finesse. As June Cheatham was a perfect fit as chair during this jumpy chamber year, Roy is poised to be the perfect fit for this season of recovery. Roy, let's sit and take some questions. Hey, man. How you doing? Good to see you, too. Well, before we get started, let's just do something to make us a little bit more comfortable here, Roy.
Oh, boy. All right. Make sure we're right.
Yeah, that's about right. I think we can go ahead and take these masks off if you don't mind.
No, thanks for making this.
Man, I'm telling you.
Keep us in compliance.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Crawford, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the wonderful comments and the insights that you've shared. It's a great video. I know the chamber members would much appreciate just being able to understand and see what's going on in the district. I'm so grateful to have you here today. So, good information. We're going to do our Q&A session now, and I've got some questions already to kind of unpack some of those things that we've already seen. So, you ready?
Sure, I'm ready. I appreciate having me here today, and I'm sure everybody loves an opportunity to grill the superintendent. We don't do this normally, but today we're going to do it.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
So, let's go for it.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's start out here with the first question. It says, in your speech, you spoke about the school board, the municipal leadership, and the community members supporting the district during the spring shutdown and the summer months. So, who are some of your staff that may have surprised you during this historical year?
Yeah, I really think that it's an awesome opportunity to celebrate some people. And I'm going to leave some folks out, I guarantee you. Every time you ask a question like that, who have been the rock stars, you're going to leave some folks out. So please, if you're on the staff out there and you're listening, please don't take it any offense. But I'm going to start off with Rachel Barber, our Director of Health Services, along with our nurses. We've got experience for the last 100 years, school systems do, on managing illness. If you think about the flu, the norovirus, colds, strep, and those are around, by the way. But this has been a little bit different. Certainly with the guidelines that we have, making sure folks are identified if they are ill, and then the quarantine that we have to put them in. That's really done at the campus level by the nurse. Okay. And Rachel Barber and her staff have really ingested a lot of that. So kudos to that group. The best thing I can also say is that our communications department has done a fabulous job of communicating with the community. You saw the video today. Their production is of that quality. Everything that they've put out there, from social media to the return to learn and the return to school plans, kudos to them for what they've been able to do. There's so many platforms that people want their communications, and trying to meet all of those is certainly one thing that we try to do. But really the kudos goes to the campus staff. Our custodians have done a great job, obviously, of keeping our facilities clean. Our food service workers have done a great job, but we couldn't have pulled off what we've pulled off without our teachers and our principals. They're rock stars, and every one of them were anxious when we started this. They remain anxious. I was anxious. I remain nervous, but they've done a great job. And I think we all understood that we were all doing this for kids. When it boiled down to it, we weren't in it for the adults. And our district culture is one of that we're going to do what we can for the students. Even though there's a lot of outside forces that did not want us to start school back again, maybe remain remote. And I can't say that there's not some internal fear in there as well. But right now, we're almost to Thanksgiving. We're going to be at Christmas soon. Before you know it, we'll be in spring break, and we'll be out of this jam, hopefully, in the next 5 to 6 months.
Well, it sounds like you got a great team. It takes a village. You
Sure.
got a great one with you, so
Sure.
Congratulations to those people.
Thank you
very much. Let's see here. And don't forget, members, if you have questions that you want to continue to submit, please use the chat function to get those into us, and we'll keep going with you. All right, Dr. C, let's see here. Recent media coverage shows concern about the long-term impact on student achievement. What do you foresee to be challenges Tyler ISD faces in the future?
Yeah, we've got some early data back. I think that everybody was projecting this back in March and April about how much of a deficit that education was going to have, locally, statewide, even nationally. And we've got some early data back that shows where we're at. And we haven't slipped that much. There's been some slippage, but those things are not insurmountable. I do think that we're going to have to look at some very creative ways to recoup some of the learning loss that we've had. And not everyone's had learning loss. Your kids, my kids, probably have been able to sustain this because we've been able to challenge them at home. But we do have some situations in the community that parents may not have the capacity to be able to provide those opportunities for their kids. So we're going to have to be very specific, very purposeful, very intentional, very targeted where our challenges are. And we know where they're at. There's no doubt that in 2014, when we had 11 low-performing campuses here, we realized the areas that have struggled academically. Those areas have not changed. Those risk loads in our community have not changed. And so being able to identify them, put very specific and intentional plans in place is something we've proven we've been able to do, and we're going to have to do that. One thing I'm really interested in, this kind of came up because of COVID, is a year-round school offering. Maybe not for the entire district, but certainly we're looking at pockets of our school system to where you don't have that summer slide, that you're able to do some things above and beyond more time as far as that goes. And don't forget, Roy, we were actually starting a huge literacy push, getting a lot of our staff trained in phonemic awareness and phonological functioning. going back to the old school way of teaching reading, because we realize that's the best thing that we can give kids. That is not something that just started because of COVID. It's not something that we just started back in 2014. It has been an East Texas challenge. It's been a Tyler challenge for generations. And we've got to stop it. We've got to improve that. We want to improve it quicker than we possibly are able to, but we certainly need to make sure that the inputs are there so that our kids don't have these deficits, whether it be COVID or not.
It's always a challenge, but keeping that pressure on to improve the student outcomes on a consistent basis, given what you've had to deal with, it's amazing. So we're grateful that still is a priority and will always stay there.
Sure.
So next question is, we've seen a spike in the community recently. What does the district look like in terms of continuing to operate when community spread is so obvious?
Well, the great thing is, I think that certainly we can look at our school system and that we have very tight protocols and structures in place. For 20,000 people, our students and our staff combined in this community of 115,000, I think for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you can find some pretty tight procedures. We do have our faces covered. We've tried to take the politics out of that one way or the other. I know that some folks aren't happy, but that's just the world we're living in. We think that that has provided some success for us. Personal distancing, like we did today, is certainly that's something we encourage our kids and our teachers and our staff to make sure that they're observing as well. And then the hygienic practices with your hands. I think you can tell a lot of people are not putting their hands on their face quite as much as they used to. Your hand washing, your antibacterials that we're using as well. But also the way that our custodians are cleaning our campuses. We were already using electrostatic foggers before COVID. There was a rush for that to be done, to buy all these products. But we've armed every one of we've got enough foggers, I think, for every custodian in our district, which is quite an accomplishment. And then we've even done some creative things. There's some waxy substances that you can put on door handles and whatnot that kill those viruses as well. So there's a wide array of things, I think, that have really helped us stay underneath that 1% of infection for our school system. I think we've modeled that for our community, and we think that we've done a community service in doing that.
Well, I think that's outstanding. I mean, I've seen a change in behavior even in my kids. They've learned things when they've seen their peers when they're in school, and it just bleeds over. And I think as a community, we need to protect everyone and be respectful. So, absolutely. Great job to everybody who's on the campuses doing that. So, okay, turning now to the 87th legislature, how is Tyler ISD prepared for what could happen given the economy that we're facing?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Tyler's history and Tyler's economy has been tied to the oil and gas industry for so many years now. We've diversified a little bit more through with tech and certainly with the medical industry as well. And boy, they've had a heck of a year themselves. But when it boils down to it, the state's economy derives from oil and gas and sales tax. Our school systems are funded that way, even though we all think that it's all on our rooftops, and that is a big deal. Property taxes are certainly something that does provide a lot of our revenue. But the economy is struggling a little bit. The comptroller came out and talked about the billions of dollars that we're going to have for deficit. We did some work in this budget season to reduce our budget and our revenue projections for next year by eliminating some positions. We didn't eliminate people. We just absorbed some positions, did a reorganization, and pretty much plugged existing staff into any vacancies that we may have had. We reduced a lot out of administration. We've done a lot of that in the last 6 years anyways, and so we're pretty lean there. So we're probably 3/4 to maybe 90% of the way to where I think that we're probably going to get reduced. Unlike other school systems who probably didn't do any work at all. I will say this, Roy, we have a nice little surprise that's coming for our staff in the future, more than likely. And so we were able to prepare for next year, but at the same time take care of this year and this year's challenge.
Well, and I think that's real important. I mean, to the chamber members who have businesses, that everybody has to adjust to what's going on in the economy, and sometimes we got to be mindful of what's going to happen to our school district. And that's a tough thing to do. So thanks for doing that and keeping that, top of line too.
Sure.
So we have, with the bond 2017 construction on track, when do you plan to celebrate a big grand opening if conditions do allow?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know about y'all.
That'd be great.
And I don't know about you, Roy, but I'm tired of construction. And, Tyler's done a great thing the last 15 or so years. K through 12, once these high schools get completed, I think we're only down to 2 facilities. That's Hogg Middle School and Hubbard Middle School that we have that have not been either built new or touched up with renovations and additions. But these high school projects, you just don't build those very often. Once every 65 to 70 years, they take a little bit longer. It's 1 million square feet of work between both high schools. And so we knew that it was going to take 3 years. Folks were like saying, oh, there's no way. Well, it takes an elementary school 1 year to build. It takes a middle school 18 months to build. We're doubling that up, so we're tired of it. They're doing a great job. Tim Loper, Brady Bedingfield, Cherie Jones have done a phenomenal job of managing that project. Tasha Bjork, our CFO, we're going to be on time and within budget. Kudos to all those folks I just named. So I'm hoping to celebrate this thing, that we're able to invite the community in to celebrate this with a ribbon cutting in early August of 21. By then, maybe the vaccine will be out. Everybody will be dosed up a couple of times, and we'll be high-fiving and cutting a ribbon, shooting off fireworks for the completion of those great facilities. And again, thanks to the taxpayers for the last 15 years, especially on this bond 2017, for what they're providing our students and our staff.
Yeah, it's great. For those who haven't got to see, I've gotten to see a little bit of the campuses. They're awesome. I'm excited for the students coming in.
Sure.
It is a different feel.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, we're on the back end of that project. The athletic fields, I think I alluded to this in my speech, are something that the community can see that's at the back end. Yeah. That's phase 3 in my mind. I know it's a different phase as far as the scheduling goes, but once you start to see those come up, that means we're getting close. And so I'm excited. We're close in terms of within 6 months or so. So we're excited about that. It's such a small thing, but we've been putting our student athletes in facilities that were designed for 2A and 3A. Henry Bell is here today, and it's the same facilities that we had when he was going to school there. That was a long time ago, and certainly that's something we're very proud that we can say that we're a 5A, 6A school system, and we can have the athletic facilities here in East Texas to match that.
Well, that's awesome. I think we continue to invest in our students.
Sure,
and that's
absolutely.
Time and it's money and it's facilities.
Absolutely.
So we're excited about that. Some of the discussions that have come up in our chamber meetings is challenges in connectivity in the rural markets. What is Tyler SD doing to help with that challenge?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the great 35,000-foot vision of leadership, or even 100,000-foot vision from maybe the federal government or the state government is, we can just go ahead and flip everything over to virtual. And you can have the best laid out plans to purchase a Chromebook for every student. But when it boils down to it, if they don't have that connectivity at home, it's going to be very difficult for you. So one thing we've been able to do is purchase some hotspots for students as well. But certainly there's some dark areas here and even in East Texas to where even a cell phone tower doesn't help you with that hotspot. There's no doubt that connectivity is something that needs to be worked on with the state legislature. The federal government needs to think about it as well, because it's not just an educational issue, it's an economic issue. It is the next utility that needs to be part of what we pay for. It's the interstate system. It is the Eisenhower Interstate System project that we embarked upon in the 50s to make sure folks had good roads to travel on. And of all places, East Texas and Tyler, even though we are very cosmopolitan in terms of East Texas, we have some very rural parts of our community that need access to broadband. And so I think that that's something that we continuously need to talk about with our legislators is that. In the meantime, we've done things like put up our park and learn systems where we've expanded the reach of our antenna at all of our campuses and all of our facilities so that parents can actually park in those parking lots. or the students can park in those parking lots and receive expanded Wi-Fi coverage. It's really forcing us to modernize the way we think of education. So those are some of the things that we've been able to do with the one-to-one devices. And by the way, we're still waiting for all of those to come in because of some geopolitical issues with that big country across the Pacific Ocean. We've been able to take care of some of the things with expanded Wi-Fi coverage, some of the hot spotting that we've been able to provide. But certainly we need to continue to ask our legislators and our congressmen and congresswomen to expand broadband coverage as well.
Well, I think that's huge, and I think you said it just right. It's the next utility. We talk about the roads, and that's how we want to communicate, and being able to improve the opportunities for students, being able to improve the opportunities for our chamber members and their business. It's connectivity, and
absolutely.
I think it's something that is going to continue to stay up there. We'll continue to push it from our side.
Good.
So help out the community. All right. So next question is, what are plans for coming back after Thanksgiving and Christmas? There are concerns about the spread after the holidays. So what do you see?
Yeah, there was a little rumor out there, I think, when Michigan announced that they weren't going to come back even after Thanksgiving. I think everybody in Texas said, oh my gosh, we're going to do the same thing. Y'all know we're not in Michigan. Thank goodness, right? Not just with the politics, but also with the weather. We're going to have to continue to play it by ear. We have been one of the more aggressive school systems, along with our peers in White House and Lindale, to trying to push that envelope a little bit, to say that it's important when students are in front, or a teacher is in front of a student, and not relying upon the parents at home to try to manage that student's education. Not everybody has that capacity to do that. I'm going to tell you, in the Crawford household, we don't have the capacity to manage our child's education.
Right there.
There's a reason that we have teachers, that we hold teachers up on a pedestal, because they do great things with their talents. And so in saying that, we're scared to death and preparing for a spike that may happen after Thanksgiving. We've seen it after Halloween. I think everybody let their guard down a little bit and went trick-or-treating or had Halloween parties. Thanksgiving is going to be no different. So we're encouraging everyone that during these holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, to try to stay as tight with the protocols as you possibly can. Roy, I'm an old baseball player, and there's a lot of folks that know that I played baseball, and I was away from home some of that during that time. But I just reflected on this. This is the longest I've ever gone without seeing my own parents. Yeah. I hadn't seen them since July. And we've made a conscious effort to make sure that we're not risking their health. They're both in their early 80s, and something we've decided that if we're going to wind up having some type of exposure, it's going to happen here in Tyler, Texas. We're going to keep it within the behind the pine curtain. And so we're not going to travel and see them probably, and hopefully in the next 5 to 6 months they'll have the vaccine out. So we can't control that. We just encourage everyone to make the right decisions, that if they are going to spend some time with an extended family outside of their families here in Tyler, that they continue to practice some of the behaviors that we've learned here to keep that number under 1% for Tyler ISD as well. So yeah, we're a little concerned and about what's going to happen after Thanksgiving, what's going to happen after Christmas. But we also know we've done a heck of a job up until this point, and we'll continue to have school in the school buildings until, I guess, the governor tells us not to.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you, the Martinez household as well. My kids would prefer the teachers on campus as opposed to me. I've done my fair share of teaching, and they're going to say, yeah, I'd like to go back and let me go get some good education. Yeah. So a healthy respect to the virus and to everyone around us during this holiday season is to keep us in check. I do appreciate, though, the ability to be flexible, to see things coming and try to plan for it without making some rash decisions. That's important, but keeping the transparency and sharing with us is huge. So.
Well, I spoke to this, but our vendor that has the Chromebooks locked up, and I guess they're somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, I don't know, has assured us that November and December is the arrival time. So if we get into the spring after, post-Christmas holidays, we should be able to be one-to-one district-wide. that at least gives us the peace of mind that if we needed to do something, or if something's done outside of our control. We didn't have a choice last March. We were told to shut down by those in charge. And to be honest with you, it was the right call then. There's no doubt about it, because we just didn't know. We really thought that this was going to be some type of World War Z or some type of Hollywood movie that was coming. And we got to respect it. There's no doubt there's an illness out there. It's been detrimental to a lot of folks of certain conditions. We've got to be very careful and cautious with that. But at the same time, I hope we don't get into the situation like we did last March, because it really did sting us educationally. It's stinging us economically. We talked about that with the legislative session coming up. So I'm hoping that there's some more strategies out there that we can be a little bit more informed when we make our decisions.
Well, I hope so too. So we'll be protective during this season, so we can get back and stay on track.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. So Tyler ISD over the past several years has done a great job with updating the school facilities, and thanks to the taxpayer support in the community. But what's next? Are more schools needed in the future? Renovations at certain schools? You see.
Well, I think that this has been a heck of a project over the last 15 plus years. And I think knowing the history of how we got to where we are today, the community asked us to do two things before we were able to embark upon these facility improvements, and that was take care of your finances. And we've had a great CFO in place for the last 20 years in Tasha Bjork. Just last night, we presented our first rating. We superior achievement for the last 17 years in a row. That's the highest rating you can receive as far as the state's financial accountability system goes. So kudos to her and her staff. So we've taken care of that. The community also said you got to take care of your academic challenges, and that they were tired of having some of these ratings the way that they were. And we've been able to do that for the most part. In very struggling campuses, we've had great principal leadership. Our teachers have really bought into the instructional program that we have. And we've been able to, like I said in my speech, make sure we've given everybody an opportunity, regardless of zip code, to have an exceptional education. I think that those things right there need to be maintained, and I think we're in a good position to do so if we go forward as far as any facilities go. Like I said, we've got two facilities that are certainly on the radar. Hubbard was built in, I think, 67 or so, somewhere in there. Hogg in 10 years will be 100 years old. And so those are some decisions that the school board is going to provide guidance upon as well. Plus, we're growing. Before COVID hit, we did have a heck of a year last year as far as growth goes, and we're competing. We've got friends in the private schools and the charter schools, and they're doing a good job too. I think Tyler ISD is starting to have that type of reputation to where we can actually compete academically. I said this in my speech, that in something like 17 out of 27 or 28 advanced placement exams, we're outperforming our peers, both public, private, and charter schools. So we're college prep too, and that's something I think people are recognizing as well. Our schools are safe. We don't tolerate one student, getting in the way of the education of the 22 others in the classroom. We certainly want to provide some reformation for that student that might have to have some discipline, but at the same time, we're just not going to play that game. We compete salary-wise, just about as good as you can in East Texas. We're going to incentivize that as well. So those are the things that are next. It's not just the facilities. It's just to make sure that you have quality teachers in front of students, led by principals on that campus, and doing so and making sure they're taking care of the academic needs of those students, that the accountability performance is always there. And I think that allows you to garner a lot of respect and a lot of support in the community when you start talking about new facilities. So that's what's next. The last thing I will say is we need the community's help. Sure. There's no doubt that we have effective teachers. We have great leadership by our principals. We do a good job managing our finances, and we do a good job in taking care of the facilities that have been given to us through our preventative maintenance fund. But in saying that, when we come up with innovative programs, we need the churches, we need the chambers, we need the service organizations to get our kids in the right place. In other words, when we offer a year-round summer setting, or we have Rose City summer camps with the Mentoring Alliance, we need to make sure that the students that need it the most, the ones that have the slides, either because of COVID or because of summer slide, that they're accessing those programs and that we're supporting those programs. Because it may take a little innovation, and it may take a little bit of tradition being defeated to overcome some of that. And I know I'm talking a long time here, but I'm pretty passionate about it. And folks have heard me say this at the chamber before, that tradition will get you beat. So the old agrarian calendar, where you only go to school for 9.5 or 10 months out of the year and everybody gets a summer, maybe something we need to take a look at. I'm not talking about that for every child. I'm talking about for the students that need it, that have been traditionally, for lack of a better term, underserved throughout generations, so that we can catch them up. We've got to look outside the box in pockets so that we can have a great school system.
I totally agree with that. I think you don't want to have where you get stuck in that rut of you're just say, this is how we've always done it. It's a continuous competition, and it's a continuous way that how do we help improve the education of our students so they can improve their quality of life?
Yeah.
And you got to be creative. We've got so many new tools. I mean, we're here in a virtual conference with these wonderful people on the other end that we did not have, 15, 20 years ago for sure, and much less used even in the last few years. So continuously looking for those opportunities, lean on the chamber to do so. And we want to lean on the community and say, let's look for those great things. But I think that is some of the unknowns that aren't as widely spread or widely known, what Tyler ISD has to offer during those times. It's not just the 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, school session. There's so many more opportunities and tools provided.
No doubt. And let's not forget, Tyler's going to be the top right corner of the Texas rectangle whenever they finally figure it out. It's a triangle right now. And what's our legacy going to be 50 years down the road whenever Texas does come over here? We've got all the trees, we've got all the water, and we've got affordable land here. They're coming. And dadgummit, they don't need to pass us over and land in Gregg County. We need to take care of Tyler's future, and that's what we're talking about here. We've overcome a lot of things, and I think we're on the cusp of really accomplishing some of those things so that our children and our grandchildren here in East Texas are going to be able to look back and say, man, look what the chamber did at that time, look what the school system did at that time, look what the city and the county did at that time, look what the people of Smith County and Tyler, Texas did to make this the next great city of Texas. And that's what we're talking about here. And I think if you're in education, or if you're an organization like the Chamber that supports education, you look at those pre-K kids who are going to be living here and working here, to about 2080.
Yeah, at least.
Almost into the next century. What are we going to leave them? And it starts now. So I think that we're off to a great start, and there's so much more that we can do. And I'm excited about the future of Tyler and Smith County.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well said. Thank you so much, Dr. Crawford, for being with us today, sharing with our chamber members. Great information. So our members, we're thankful for your support. We ask to continue to support Tyler ISD in its road to the future. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate the time.